Hi there. So I have been promising to go live to share all about my experience with gallbladder flushing. So I've been putting posts here on Facebook, sharing with you a little bit about the gallbladder. And I have been basically doing posts that are like more educational and not really going into the story of it. So what I thought I would do is I'll continue to provide the information in writing. For example, this morning I posted a post that shows you how to determine whether you might have symptoms of gallbladder stones. And the reason why it's really important to go look at that post is because you're not going to necessarily know that you have gallstones until you have a gallbladder attack. Okay, but there are lots of signs and symptoms in your body that will tell you that there's a really good chance that you have gallstones. So go look at that post, but I just want to share with you quickly this book because this is where I got all of the symptoms that give you an idea of whether or not you have stones. And this book is called The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush. It's by a gentleman named Andreas Morowitz. And he's kind of like the gallbladder guru is what I call him. He's the one who's been working with this gallbladder flush with people, apparently thousands of people. And he's passed away now, but he left this wonderful legacy of an easy, non-invasive approach to basically getting the stones out of your gallbladder without having to have surgery. So if you have if you're over the age of 20, there's a really good chance that you have stones because of our North American diet and lifestyle. I remember when he first wrote the book, I had an earlier version of it. And at that point, he was saying like, if you're over 30, you probably have stones. And then of course, this, more expansive book came out, 400 pages long. And he now, or at the point of when he wrote this book, he was saying that it's probably more like if you're over 20. And so when I first heard about this, I was 32 years old and I didn't have any symptoms of stones. And, but I'm health conscious, right? And I'm always learning and growing in my knowledge and I like to experiment with things. So when I heard about this and read the book and discovered that there's a good chance I had them, even though I had no symptoms of gallbladder issues. I was like, well, I'm going to try this. So I tried it in my early 30s. I believe I was about 32 years old. And I followed through on the cleanse, which is basically you drink apple juice every single day, like a liter at least, because it has malic acid in it, which breaks down and dissolves the stones so that you can make them like shrink them before you flush them. So it involved a week of whole foods and which, I already ate. And then also on the day of the flush, you would basically, there's a couple things that lead up to this moment, but you basically drink olive oil and grapefruit juice. And you also take Epsom salts, which opens up your bile duct, like relaxes it, right? Because that's what magnesium does. And there's magnesium in Epsom salts. So it relaxes the duct. You've spent an entire week actually dissolving the stones and making them softer so that they can pass without symptoms. And to be honest with you, I didn't really know what to expect, right? Because I didn't have any symptoms. I was quite young. And I don't know, it seems kind of unbelievable, right? So anyways, I did the flush and I actually had very large stones, like very large stones. The stones I had looked very much like what you would see if you go on Google and search the words gallstones and look at the cadavers of basically like a dead person's gallbladder, or I guess a removed gallbladder. The gallbladder is dead at this point once it's removed from the body. And then they show the stones inside the gallbladder. And the ones I had were literally exactly looking like that. And they were large and hard. And I was quite shocked by it. And this was having zero symptoms. At this point in my life, I was 32, right? So out of those years, I had spent 10 years being health conscious. So I'd been, on the standard North American diet as a child and a teenager. And then as in my 20s, I was eating a whole foods vegetarian diet. So I was very surprised that I too, even with all this health consciousness, had all these stones in my gallbladder. Okay. One of the things that he says in the book is that after you do the gallbladder cleanse and you see stones, that you should do this cleanse every 3 to 4 weeks until you no longer see any stones, to be sure that you've flushed all the stones. Because what happens is first you flush the stones from your gallbladder, the ones that are there. But then once you've moved those stones out, now you've made room in your gallbladder for your liver to dump the stones that are also lodged way back in the liver. So if you've already had your gallbladder removed, you can still do this cleanse to optimize the health of your liver and improve your ability to make bile so that you can digest fat better. So that's the part that I never did. I did not repeat it. And I'll tell you why. I made some strange decisions at this point because I didn't really know what I was dealing with. And, sometimes two things happen at the same time and you think, oh, they're related. So it kind of freaked me out. So number one, I didn't do it again because soon after I had done this gallbladder flush, I ended up with an abscessed tooth. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had so much pain in this tooth, and then it literally abscessed and opened up in my mouth. For some reason, I was just like, was that from this flush? I don't know. It just freaked me out. So I was too scared to do it again. And now looking back on it, I actually think it could have been related to all of the apple juice that I was drinking on this flush. That's what basically this book recommends, is primarily his main thing to shrink the stones is apple juice because of the malic acid in it. And basically 1 cup of apple juice has 6 teaspoons of sugar in it. So I feel like, if anything, I don't think this caused the abscessed tooth. I think I already had that going on, and it just, the change of acidity and feeding the growth of bad bacteria in my mouth from all this sugar in the juice just put it over the edge, right? So then it was there and I had it. So I was young. So I just made that association. So I never did do a flush again until this year. And I keep saying I'm 48, but technically I'm not 48 until June 18th. But I don't know. I have this thing where I always think I'm older than I am. It's weird. And I literally will just spit out the next, if I'm 6 months closer to the next age, I'll just always spit that out. It's this weird thing. Technically 47. So at the age of 47, I did this flush again. I just didn't do what he said to do. So I expected to have stones again, this time, at least as big as the ones I had when I was 32, or even bigger, who knows, right? It's another how many years since I've done it. And I thought because I'm older, it would be worse. But that wasn't the case. And I don't really know if it had to do with because I did it differently. But I basically created my own drink that was sugar-free. Instead of using apple juice, I used apple cider vinegar and cranberry juice, which is a lot less sweet. And significantly less sweet. And I also I took the stone crusher, which is an herb called chanca piedra. And I kind of have a feeling it was that crusher, the stone crusher, chanca piedra, that really shrank the stones down, because this time, unfortunately, the sieve that I used in the toilet, oh, by the way, you probably don't know, how do these stones get out of a person's body? Well, it's not like kidney stones. They're not coming through your urinary tract. It actually goes into your large intestine and you eliminate it through your bowels. So you can put a sieve in the toilet and then you'll have these intense bowel movements because you'll be drinking Epsom salt. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And the sieve that I got wasn't a stainless steel, really small one. It had little holes in it that were about I don't know, like this big. So my stones were crushed and dissolved and softened so much from, I think it was the herb, honestly, because I can't imagine what the drink would be that much more potent that I put together than the one, like the apple cider one. So or it's a combination of the both. I don't know. But literally only one stone was able to not go through the sieve. Like it was that small and they were so soft. So, that's a testament to food as medicine, right? Like, and herbs. So it was either the Chanca Piedra, like the powerfulness of that herb, or it was the food as medicine, the apple cider and the cranberry, and the malic acid that they contain to dissolve the stones. I was in shock, honestly. I wondered, like, at first, like, oh, did it not work? Because I changed things, right? Than the original recipe. The other thing I changed was basically what people do with this recipe and here when they're actually making the flush drink is they, you just mix the grapefruit juice, like fresh pressed grapefruit juice and olive oil. And then you just it's gross. So you swig it back. And that was another thing that stopped me from doing it again right away. That was the second thing. I was like, oh, it's like so disgusting to drink that olive oil straight like that because it really mixed with the grapefruit juice, right? And so I noticed after I'd done it the first time when I was 32, that I had an aversion to the idea of doing it anytime soon because I didn't want to drink olive oil again. So I can imagine that many people have done this once and can't even fathom the idea of doing it again because of that disgustingness. So I had an idea just right before I did it. I was like, oh, I wonder what will happen if I just take the olive oil and the grapefruit juice and put it in a blender and emulsify it. I was really hoping it wasn't going to affect the flush, changing it in that way. I mean, there's no logical reason that it would, but hey, anytime you're experimenting and you're changing things, there's a chance you're not going to get the results that were intended from the original recipe. So I took my chances and I did it. And oh my God, it was so delicious. It was like a creamy oil smoothie. And I happen to love fat anyways. So to me, it was like this delicious creamy grapefruit juice to the point where I was disappointed that I had to swig it back. I wanted to sip it. It was that good. So if anyone is watching this and has done it before and you couldn't get yourself to do subsequent flushes because that was so disgusting, or you felt nauseous because of it, I highly recommend doing it again and doing it that way because it's in a totally different ballgame. It's so much better. So I think it's been a couple weeks. So I'm going to do it again. Coming up, I think 2 weeks from now. And I am going to actually this time do a different way. I'm not going to take the Chanca Piedra. I'm just going to take malic acid and water to see if that is enough and what happens with just that. Just because I'm experimenting with all these alternative ways of shrinking stones that don't involve any juice, right? Because even cranberry has some natural sugar in it, which if you have diabetes, metabolic disease, cancer, insulin resistance of any, fatty liver, you should not be eating fruit sugar. It's just too hard on the blood sugar. So, and if you have fatty liver, it's another thing that is not helpful. So yeah, I'm just in experiment mode with this. And so I've done 2 flushes my whole life and I will get to the end. Now I'm kind of thinking when I'm looking at, his story in the book, how many flushes people on average need after what happened with so much of them shrinking with the Chanca Piedra and the apple cider / cranberry mix. I kind of wonder maybe I won't have to do that many flushes because of how much everything was dissolved. I feel like if you just took that drink and the Chanca Piedra over time, that you would actually not even need to do the flush because it would slowly shrink those stones in your gallbladder and the ones backed up in your liver. So for anybody who's scared to do it, I really believe that those herbs, they work. And you wouldn't notice in the food. You wouldn't notice it though if you didn't have symptoms. And that's the thing. I was taking that Chanca Piedra every day for the 6 days before the flush. And I was I wonder if this is working. I didn't have any symptoms of gallbladder stones, like the actual symptoms of when you're getting a gallbladder attack. So it wouldn't be something I would really notice, right? So that's kind of it's happening in your in a part of your body that's invisible to you. So if you don't have those symptoms, then how would you know, right? The only way I could know is how it was so different this time than before, when I didn't use that recipe and the chanca piedra. So I know people, when they hear about this, they get kind of nervous about this, and they're afraid that they're going to get a stone lodged in their bile duct, right? So anyways, I do actually have a group that I just literally created here on Facebook for people who want to explore this and learn more. I'll be posting the one stone I have a picture of in the group. I'll do that today, actually. And then also, when you get in there, you can see the stones of a client of mine who basically, it was her first time ever doing a flush. And it was like 50 years of like stones of never doing one. And she had so many more than me, but she had much smaller stones than I had when I was 32. And she's like 50, right? So again, it tells me that that combination that I used this time, the combination of apple cider vinegar and cranberry juice, plus the chanca piedra, was also extremely effective in her case, that her stones were way smaller than mine were the first time, which is pretty cool. So if you go into the group, you'll be able to see the pictures of her flush. Yeah, I created the group so that, whether you wanted to use my protocol, which you can get on my website, and you can get all the training that I'm giving for free in there. It's all just going to be compiled in there. But the actual flush booklet that I created is $27, and it just simplifies everything for you. If you want, you can also get this 400 page book on Amazon. It's $37. For those of you that don't want it simplified, you just want, the original recipes and all the other really good information. It's a health book, right? Like it's not just about one thing, doing a flush. Whereas my book is just about, here's, how to simplify it for those of you who don't like to read, but you want like the step-by-step formula for how to do it. And plus mine is not using apple juice. That's another major difference. So another thing that kind of put me in a strange situation the first time I did the gallbladder flush was that I was freaked out about the idea of Epsom salts. So not understanding it, not having the knowledge that I have now of the human body and physiology and nutrition and how all this works, I made the mistake of thinking at the time that he included the Epsom salt for the salt part of it, which is not what it's there for. It's literally for the magnesium, right? So Epsom salts are magnesium sulfate. It's magnesium. So what that does is it basically relaxes the bile duct so that everything just like opens, so the stones can pass through much easier. And by the way, like I felt nothing either time. Like I felt no pain or anything. The only thing that I experienced, which was really cool and really interesting, and if you do the flush, I recommend that you pay attention to this. So I just lied down. I took the beverage. I was tired because it was quite late at night. So I was just like floating kind of in and out of sleep. And what started happening is faces of people that I held bitterness in my heart towards started actually coming up. And guess what? The gallbladder is connected to bitterness that we hold. So sometimes our symptoms are, diet and lifestyle, but most often there's a combination of a metaphysical cause as well. So I believe that not only did I flush physical stones and physical stagnation in my actual gallbladder, but I also believe I was literally releasing emotions connected to the bitterness that I was holding in my body. And if we don't let go of these emotions, they get stored in your body. And then that creates energy blockages, which makes it much more difficult for you to get your nourishment, like nutrition, to that organ and toxins out of that organ. So That's a very powerful part of it. And I felt this sensation of like, I had done something healing. I had done something spiritual as well. Like there was like I felt a reverence for the experience. Something quite powerful about, you know, just taking your health into your own hands and connecting into your body and hearing what it has to share with you. So anyways, back to the Epsom salts. So this time I recognized, okay, what is it for? Like, what am I actually using this Epsom salt for? And it's not for the salt. So here's why I'm telling you this. So for people who are afraid of getting stones stuck in their bile duct, well, when I did it the first time, I had way bigger, harder stones. In fact, they were so hard that I was like, wow, these would make like nice, like they were actually like a pretty color. And I was like, wow, like I can make jewelry out of these things. Of course, I didn't do that. I didn't keep them, but I was able to, at that point, I used the wrong thing. I didn't even use something that was to open my bile ducts, and I had much bigger stones, and I eliminated them without pain then as well. Okay, so with no trouble. So if you're doing, you know, the right recipe of things that are going to break the stones down and soften them, and you're using the Epsom salt, which has the magnesium in it to open your bile ducts, you know, the likelihood of it being fine for you is much higher, right? And this idea of stones getting stuck there and lodged is kind of theoretical, right? Like it's possible, right? Like, but it doesn't mean that in your situation that's going to happen, especially if you're taking all these precautions to make it easier. It's better than not addressing these symptoms at all and then getting stuck in an emergency situation, like out of nowhere. You don't know it's coming. You don't know why you're in pain and ending up in the emergency room and having to get your gallbladder removed, right? So, but again, I would say if you're afraid at all, make sure that you get this book. It'll help allay your fears. And take not just one stone crusher, take the Chanca Piedra, take the cranberry juice, the apple cider vinegar. You can even add the malic acid if you want to it, to like be really sure. That's what I would do if I was afraid. So anyways, the one other thing that I'll leave you with that I would change when I'm doing it the next time is I'm actually not going to use the Epsom salts because I found that so aggressive in terms of like getting your bowels moving, right? Because you want to use the Epsom salt not just to open up your bile ducts, but also to get you to eliminate, right? Because you have to actually eliminate those stones through your bowel. So you can't do this constipated. That's one thing. You don't do this constipated. You do enemas, but the salt, the Epsom salt will get you to flush your bowels as well. So I didn't like that. I found it really invasive. I really don't like having a like sore raw butthole personally. So I would recommend trying something else. So this time, and I also don't like the taste of it. It is like yucky. It's gross. Drinking the olive oil and the grapefruit juice was like a walk in the park compared to drinking this Epsom salt. So next time I'm going to use magnesium citrate, and it's also a magnesium. It has the same effect if you have large amounts of it. It causes bowel movements, but I think it can taste better, right? Because you can just buy it even flavored. You can buy like lemon flavored or whatever, cherry flavored magnesium citrate. So that, because you want to use things that aren't going to give you an aversion to doing it again in 4 weeks, right? So anyway, so I just literally came on here because I've been promising this information, and it's just so much easier for me to tell the actual experience of things in a video than to write an article on it. So if you want to continue to learn more, like I said, at the end, once I'm done, turn the video off, I'm going to add the link to the Facebook group so that you can join if you want that guidance, and so that you don't miss anything new that I'm posting about gallbladder flushing. I'm still doing it all for free here on these Facebook pages. But if you get into the gallbladder group, then it's going to all be in there. So you're going to be able to find it all in one place. So it gives you that convenience. And also the reason I created that group is because I wanted to make it so that people could go somewhere to see the pictures of what people were flushing, but with a healthy dose of reverence and respect for other people and their experiences and what's coming out of their body. Because I didn't want to just post it here on my Facebook pages and have people who are just kind of not paying attention coming on and just being like making negative comments about what they see. Okay. Because it's not pretty, but it's actually incredible, right? Like if I was you, I want to see it. And if I was you, if that was in my body, I would want to get it out, right? So I wanted to create this place for people, and also for people who don't, you're not maybe interested in my approach to it, but you want to do it exactly as Andreas mentioned in his book. You can also go there, and then, we can learn from each other's experiences. Just get some support and guidance on the path, because surprisingly, there's even though this book has over 100 million copies sold, and if you go and watch videos on YouTube and stuff like that, you'll hear people talking about how amazing of an experience that they've had with it is. It just shocked me that there was, no place for all the people that are doing it to come together and share their experience and share their stones, right? It's probably the most easiest cleanse you could possibly do. It's just eat whole foods, take some drink and some herbs if you want, and then you have one flush on one day, and take a couple enemas, and in 1 week, and you literally are flushing stones from your gallbladder. That's so much easier than anything that is as powerful, right? It's so powerful yet so easy. So anyways, I'm going to leave it at that, and feel free to, if you're watching the replay, to ask questions. I'm happy to answer them. And I hope to see you inside the Gallbladder Flush group. And I look forward to creating more content about this for you guys, because it's pretty amazing. And I think more people should know about it, that you don't have to wait until things get so bad that you have to remove body parts. All right, we'll see you in the next training.